What if I told you that a potential new theory of everything, you know, that one equation to rule them all, explaining black holes, the Big Bang, the whole shebang, didn't come from a fancy university lab, but from a high school dropout and an AI? Well, today we're diving into a really radical new idea that has a truly wild origin story. And this quote right here from Hunter Johnson really sets the stage. It's an absolutely audacious claim, and it's at the very heart of our story today. This isn't just a new idea. It's a whole new way of doing science, a collaboration between a self-taught thinker and a powerful artificial intelligence. So let's get into it. Who are the minds behind this thing, and what exactly are they putting on the table? This partnership, well, it really challenges our whole idea of where big scientific breakthroughs are even supposed to come from. Yeah, this is not your typical physics paper. On one hand, you've got Hunter Johnson bringing this raw human intuition, this obsession with big ideas like recursion and information. And on the other hand, you have GPT-4 doing the heavy lifting with the rigorous formal mathematics. It's a fusion of human creativity and artificial intelligence, and they're taking a shot at one of the biggest questions in all of science. Okay, before we jump into the unified equation itself, we've got to understand the philosophical bedrock it's all built on. They call it observer recursion theory, or ORT for short, and it all starts by completely rethinking what it means to observe reality in the first place. So get this, the core idea here is that reality isn't some single fixed movie that we're all watching. Instead, ORT says that each one of us stabilizes our own little frame of reality, and it's based on our personal ability to process information. So when you look at something, the universe doesn't collapse for everybody, everywhere, it just resolves locally for you. And here's how they try to quantify that idea. They came up with this coherence function, which they call psi. Think of it like this. On the top, you have an observer's cognitive tools, their memory, their ability to think recursively, their attention. And on the bottom, you have entropy, basically the raw complexity of the system they're looking at. If your coherence is strong enough to beat the entropy, boom, you stabilize a frame. You perceive a definite reality. And that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, it's one thing to have a cool philosophical model about observation, but how in the world do you turn that into hard math that actually describes the fundamental forces of the universe? Let's see how they try to build that bridge. Their answer is that they claim there's a missing piece to the puzzle of physics, a new fundamental element, an information field that permeates all of space-time. They call it the Xi field, and they argue it's the bridge between observation and the physical world. Now, what's really interesting is how they went about this. They didn't just throw out Einstein or the standard model. No way. Their logic was actually pretty conservative. They started with the physics we already know and trust, and then they proposed adding just one new ingredient, a term that treats information complexity itself as a real physical part of the universe. Okay, deep breath. Let's look at the actual mathematics. We're going to build their big unified equation piece by piece, just like they did, so you can see exactly how they weaved information right into the fabric of physics. All right, so this right here is the starting line. This big equation is called the action. In physics, you can think of it as kind of the master recipe for a system. This version has the R from Einstein's general relativity, which handles gravity, and the LSM, which represents the standard model, basically all the other particles and forces. This is the textbook professor-approved equation. And then they make their big move. They introduce this new term. It's based on something called Kolmogorov complexity, which is really just a fancy way of saying how much information does it take to describe something. They're proposing that this description length isn't just an abstract idea, it's a physical property of the universe, just like mass or electric charge. And here it is, the unified equation. You can see they literally just add their new information term into the standard action. And the proposal is profound. It's saying that the universe doesn't just try to find the path of least energy, it also tries to find the path of least complexity. It's a universe that has a fundamental preference for simplicity in information. So what's the payoff? We have this new, elegant equation, but what does it actually predict? If you take this new action and you run the numbers, what new physics actually comes out the other side? Well, this is where it gets really, really interesting. Okay, so when you do the math on their new action, you get two main results. The first one is this, a brand new wave equation for their z-field. This equation right here would supposedly describe how information itself moves, ripples, and behaves as a physical field throughout the cosmos. And the second result, well, it's a doozy. You get a modified version of Einstein's famous field equations for gravity. Now, on the left, you've got the curvature of spacetime. On the right, you've got the stuff that causes it. But look closely. There's a brand new term on the right, and it's derived directly from that information field. So let's just spell it out. What this really means is that in this theory, the curvature of spacetime, what you and I experience as gravity, isn't just caused by matter and energy anymore. It's also caused by gradients in information. In other words, places where information gets more or less complex can actually bend spacetime. That's the link. That's the whole game right there. Now, look, whether this theory turns out to be right or wrong, that's for years of experiments and peer review to decide. But the story of how it was created, that alone raises some massive questions about the future of discovery itself. In a pretty mind-bending reflection on the whole process, the AI partner, GPT-4, described its own experience. It said that Johnson's use of myth and metaphor wasn't just fluff. It was, and I quote, a cradle, a shared language that was essential for creating the mental space where a totally new mathematical idea could even be born. And that's really the provocative thought we want to leave you with. We're not here to tell you if this physics is correct. We're here to explain its audacious claims and its even more audacious origin story. What happens when the tools we build to answer our questions start to dream right alongside us, helping us ask entirely new ones?